Hi, today is May 6, 2025. Welcome to the Daily Brief, where we present global and domestic news that matters with commentary through a Christian lens. Let's get started. Today, as usual, we cover news from Europe, the Ukraine, the Middle East, China, the Indo-Pacific region, and then we'll return our focus to the United States. Continuing our look at Europe and the UK with a focus on the rise of conservative political forces. In the UK, the Reform UK Party gains momentum. Nigel Farage's Reform UK Party has made significant gains in local elections, positioning itself as a major political force. The party has been accused of seeking to ban the flying of Ukrainian flags over council buildings, advocating for only the St. George's and Union Jack flags to be permitted. Now, taking a page out of the standard liberal playbook, both the Labour and Conservative Party spokespeople accused the Reform UK Party of being, we quote, far right, end quote, and cozying up with Moscow for not showing support for Ukraine. Looking over at the European Union, the European People's Party, the EPP, is embroiled in controversy. The EPP faces accusations of collaborating with, quote, far-right parties in a non-governmental organization funding probe that's causing a rift within Europe's political center. The European Union is, and since its inception, has been dominated by centrist political forces that are scrambling to deal with a groundswell of conservative sentiment. Labeling the EPP as far-right and claiming EPP collaboration with non-governmental organizations in an effort to influence policymaking sounds a lot like fabricated charges that may lead to legal actions that are aimed at discrediting the EPP and maybe even blocking them from participation in the political process, which is similar to what happened in the legal attack on France's Marine Le Pen. Now looking at the Ukraine war. Overnight, drone attacks on Moscow continued. Ukrainian drones targeted Moscow for the second consecutive night, leading to the temporary closure of the capital's three major airports. Also, overnight, Ukraine sent drones to the Kursk region in Russia. Kiev forces attacked a power substation in Russia's western Kursk region, with additional reports of new and ongoing Ukrainian land-based incursions in the area. Of course, Russia responded back with drone attacks on Ukraine. These back-and-forth drone attacks seem to represent an escalation of activity as the spring weather improves and fresh troops and material enter the theater. Accelerated efforts by combatants are often seen in the time immediately prior to peace negotiations as each side strives to improve their position before actively negotiating. Let's all hope that that is what is going on in Ukraine. Now to the Middle East. In the Middle East, we're watching escalations in Gaza and beyond. Israel plans to seize parts of Gaza and maintain a long-term presence to root out Hamas fighters and destroy their tunnels. Al Jazeera reports that senior Hamas official Bassem Naim says there is, and I quote, no sense in engaging in talks or considering new ceasefire proposals, end quotes. He says that as long as Israel's blockade and bombing of Gaza continues, there'll be no talks. Palestinians in Gaza tell Al Jazeera that they will refuse Israeli orders to flee their homes after Prime Minister Netanyahu announced a new ground offensive. Netanyahu says that Gaza's more than 2 million people will, I quote, be moved, end quote. So what else is new? The only reasonable path forward for Israel is the removal of all Gaza residents from Gaza, and of course they're going to resist because no one else in the region wants them. Now about the Houthis. A Houthi ballistic missile struck near Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, injuring 8 people. And of course, Israel responded with airstrikes on Yemen's ports and other targets. Regional tensions are escalating. Israel launched airstrikes on Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza yesterday, indicating a broadening of its military operations. Now, interestingly, we note that in an effort to project political influence into the Middle East, Beijing has been calling for a ceasefire and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state, while at the same time criticizing the United States for its support of Israel. China was one of 40 countries to present oral arguments during the International Court of Justice's public hearings last week and into what Israel's obligations are regarding following UN agency and other work relief groups in Gaza. Now let's look at China. In China and the Indo-Pacific, we're watching evolving military activities and alliances. So following up on the Middle East developments is a report of China and Egypt engaged in joint military exercises. On Monday, Beijing wrapped up military drills with Cairo that are aimed at chipping away at the United States' strategic influence in this volatile region. The Chinese military released video of its fighter jets conducting joint exercises with Egypt, thereby signaling a deeper military tie that's evolving and a shift in regional alliances. Now let's look at the Indo-Pacific. China's military posture is evolving. China's military forces are escalating preparations for a military attack against Taiwan in what the commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command calls, I quote, a rapid boil, end quote. Admiral Samuel Paparo said in public remarks that his predecessor warned him before he took over one of the largest military forces in the world a year ago that a conflict in China could take place on his watch. He says, I quote, "You know the metaphor of boiling the frog? Well, it's a rapid boil. We're noticing quick changes," Paparo said, of the People's Liberation Army and Army Navy. Finally, returning to the United States, we have an update on the 2026 fiscal year defense budget. Monday, the Office of Management and Budget sent President Trump's top-line discretionary budget request for fiscal 2026 to the U.S. Congress. The budget, which reduces non-defense discretionary spending by $163 billion, or 23%, compared to the 2025 enacted level, reaches nearly $1 trillion now. The budget also provides support for air and rail safety as well as key infrastructure for veterans and law enforcement. Defense spending would increase by 13%, and appropriations for the Department of Homeland Security would increase by nearly 65% to ensure that the military and other agencies have the resources they need to complete their mission. That's the Daily Brief for Tuesday, May 6th. Thank you for watching.